Tomodachi.
Yeah.
Oh, peace. Welcome back. Secret House Against the World. Tokyo-based hip-hop album reviews, particularly underground, independent hip-hop shit. We are the names at the bottom here. And, we do this quite often. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our recent comment video where we talk about some of the comments we got. I think we'll try to do those at least maybe once a month for these things. And also the Danielson review that we had. Yeah, so we do this. And today we're reviewing Elucid, New York rapper Elucid, uppercase with spaces. Yep. That's much more difficult to like tell people than like Doom, all caps.
Well,
all caps
it's
plus spaces.
Yeah, all caps with spaces would be, that's Blackie used to do that shit as well, right? Blackie all caps with spaces. Michael LaCour. That dude was dope. I don't know what happened with him.
Yeah, I don't either, but yeah, you know what I mean? I like it. Billy Woods stylizes his name like bell hooks, like no cap, no uppercase. Yeah. But yeah, man, I Told Bessie, this is a 13-song album, 39 minutes long. I want to say this is like his third full length. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I should have got some more information about that. But everybody will know that we know Elucid. We have reviewed an Arm & Hammer album on here, also a Billy Woods album on here before. I have been a fan of his, I want to say maybe like 2017, 2018. They don't even rhyme anymore, or the Nostrum Grocers joint that he did with Milo,
Rory,
FKA,
Rap
Milo.
Fiera.
Yeah.
Who will indeed rap forever?
Yeah, and I'm a fan of his, and what do y'all know? How do y'all know?
Yeah, shouts out to Elucid. I love Elucid. Who doesn't love Elucid? Elspade doesn't love Elucid. I love Elucid.
I don't know if
Let's
Elspade.
listen to Elucid.
I don't know
Let's
what
talk
Elspade thinks about Elucid.
Let's talk about Elucid.
Elucid
is a real good rapper.
Yeah, word. I also enjoyed the gentleman known as Elucid. Yeah, I like him a lot. Seems like a really nice guy. Well, what are you familiar?
You know what? My first.
So spelling is the first trick.
Oh, is that a dig at me? Just let me cut off Elspade every time he tries to speak.
I first.
Are you saying that I'm pretentious? Are you saying I don't understand?
I first heard about Elucid from the Arm & Hammer.
Haram.
The Haram album. That's my first introduction to him.
Okay.
And since then, I've been listening to them.
We poke you a little bit with the new tracks and shit and bother you with the bullshit. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, shout out to Mr. Elucid.
Sure, let's go into it, man. Like, generally, I like Elucid, but to be honest with you, I've always kind of seen him as kind of with Billy. I put Billy on like one of the highest platforms you can as an artist. I really like his approach, and with Elucid, some of his stuff hadn't really stuck with me as much as some of the Billy verses on the older Arm & Hammer projects. Like I love virtually all of them, but my standout moments were typically going to be Billy Woods. It wasn't until Haram that I was like, yo, Elucid might be on some different shit right now. And then hearing his verses since around that time, I really started to feel like something different happened with his writing, or where he was coming from, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe just entering in his prime or refining his shit. But more recently, I have loved his new approaches to rhyming and a lot of the more sing-songy stuff that he's doing. And yeah, I over the last 2 years, probably, I think he's been really, really much doper than I enjoyed him in the past. On this, he says like, the wild style is gone. You know what I mean? He's doing something different. The title of the album,
I Told Bessie
is like a really personal type of thing that he's experiencing. I think I get a lot of that from this album.
Dedicated to his grandmother, right?
Yeah.
Who passed away earlier.
Yeah. And she was a big from what I understand, she was a big influence on him. And I maybe this new thing that I'm getting from him lyrically is a direct result of how he's changed personally in the last few years.
He's still very like impressionistic and like free flowing on this album.
Oh yeah,
though. It's something I have mixed feelings on. I think it is both a critique and a credit to the album that the personal elements of the album and the more overly political album elements, obviously Spelling opens with the lecture from Joy James. It's like political philosophy.
Shout out to Joy James.
You have this kind of mix of the personal and the political, and I think a lot of political philosophers will tell you that the political is the personal, and that it's all downstream and everything. And sometimes I wonder if, maybe it would have benefited the album to be more sharply focused in that personal direction, or to be more outwardly political, as some of the previous stuff has been. But also, it's kind of a refreshing break from just like the intense academia of Billy Woods' work and the work with Arm & Hammer.
Hey, you know what? I liked this album, guys. I really did. Now, one thing I would say, like, when it came to the production on this, I feel like I've heard it before. Like, the beats started to get, like, not impressive. However, I will say they are better than the beats on the Arm & Hammer album. So, like, shout out to that.
You're talking about
it has
Haram.
drums on it?
Huh?
You mean it has drums on it?
Yeah, it has drums on this one. Like, yo, shout out the drums. The like I said, they started to get unimpressive after a while. I honestly feel like maybe Elucid used some of the throwaway tracks that he had, because I do feel like he's a better producer than this. He
didn't produce a lot of this.
Oh, okay.
Most of this is produced by other people. I don't know if he produced any of this.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't like it. Okay, Elucid, produce more of your own stuff, buddy.
I don't think he has a single beat on here that he produced.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I didn't like it that much. But
it's mostly child actor. There's a lot of child actor tracks. There's Lasso, Seb Bash, Alchemist is on here, Pudge, Kenny Siegel is on here, and yeah, none of this is.
I just assumed
Elucid.
he did his own album because he can make tracks.
Messiah Music is also on here as well.
I was so happy to see Pudge on here, and he produced Betamax, which I think
that's my favorite song.
Is, a standout on the album. It's one that a lot of people really, really loved. I know one of our comments also, mentioned absolutely loving that song. And I was a huge fan of Pudge back in the day, like, when like the LA beat scene was kind of in full swing, and you had, the whole Brain Feeder thing, Flying Lotus, Teebs, Sam I Am, Jeremiah J, Toki Monster, all those cats. And Pudge, Prefuse, all those guys were doing that kind of similar vibe, that kind of synthy but wonky beat style.
Off
and
kilter,
off kilter, and I was like a huge fan of Pudge, and then I kind of fell off that kind of sound. I wasn't.
I don't know
to it
what.
as much.
I forgot all about him, actually, to be honest with you, until I saw him in the production credits, and I thought it was an outlier. I was like, oh shit, what? It's like seeing like, I don't know, like a Hudson Mohawk on a track these days.
Right,
it's like,
right.
oh shit, like a really, but I actually, Spade, I really. Like, child actor is somebody that I'm fairly familiar with, but I couldn't go back and tell you my favorite works from him, or I don't know if it's a him actually, but yeah, my favorite works from them. And I really kind of like how this kind of lush environment that he created with a lot of these beats, there was a lot of interesting panning and a lot of interesting things that he does with like the vocals, like, there's one track where it's like the vocals are very kind of pitch shifted or like very fuzzy, and I thought that I got on my L Spade Fly Anakin shit. I was like, it would be better if they were clean. But for most of the tracks, I thought that listening to them on these headphones, which are my better headphones, my first listen was really magical. It was like from ear to ear, bouncing, and I listened to this album all together at once until I got to Betamax, and then I rewound.
He uses some very like unconventional and unique flows on here as well. I think sometimes there is the risk, not personally for me, but I think this could be annoying for certain people.
Oh yeah.
The sort of the repetitions. Just got to heaven and I can't sit down. Just got to heaven, I can't sit down.
Point.
I think that might be a reference to R.L. Burnside. I'm not sure, but one of R.L. Burnside, great bluesman, one of his last albums was called "Wish I Was in Heaven, Sitting Down." So I thought maybe that was an allusion to that. There's a bunch of like, I think maybe this is an allusion thing that's going on this album.
One of the things that I really like about Elucid, and why I think that while his vocal tone kind of is very similar to Billy Woods, and you might get lost in him, to me it's very easy to separate their styles. Billy's approach is very easy to separate their styles. When I listen to Elucid, I don't feel like he's pulling me towards like an answer for me to figure things out in the same way Billy Woods is. He's kind of a more dynamic lyrical gymnast that has a very choppy style. Like, his cadence will flip multiple times, and it's not even like one of those MCs where you can predict the line that's coming. It's like sometimes you don't predict what the next bar is going to even attempt to try to do.
I'm glad you said that, because let me just put it out. Between Billy and Elucid, I lean more towards Elucid. Elucid has a better, in my opinion, rhyme scheme. In my opinion,
not as spoken wordy, right? Like,
not as spoken word. It's
I
more
will say
choppy, and I think the choppy aspect of it, and it does like hit harder for me personally.
I will say, Billy on Sardonyx here is my favorite Billy Woods.
Shout out to Pink Seafood. Well, I can hear him.
He's crazy on this.
Billy
one.
is actually really crazy on this.
He's
album.
crazy all over this album.
Yeah.
I kind of wish there was less of him, just because this is an
The back
Elucid
end
album.
became a Arm and Hammer album.
There's
on the back end.
how many songs are
Like
there?
4?
13
4 of them.
songs,
Yeah.
and 4 of them have Billy
Billy
Woods
on
on
it.
them, which is that's his posse, that's his people.
Yeah,
It's,
partners in crime,
and he
like-
doesn't make the tracks worse. In
doesn't.
fact, he fucking shines. Maybe better, more so, depending on your mileage may
believe-
vary.
But it's the
Sardonyx
Batman
was-
Robin thing, though. It's like you keep on. Billy Woods is kind of like Batman. You keep on putting like Elucid as Robin. So I would like to see him shine by himself. a little bit
Andre
more.
and Big Boy might be a better comparison in that respect, because Robin is very clearly number 2
Yeah.
in that relationship.
Okay,
and I
this
don't
is
see
like
it that way.
This is I see what you're saying. I get the Batman and Robin thing too, just because Billy is held to such a high regard, and his solo albums have been really something that have been critically acclaimed over the years, whereas Elucid doesn't have that same body of
Right.
work
The pedigree,
or
yeah.
that approach. So I understand the Batman Robin aspect, and I would agree that maybe it would be a different conversation if Billy didn't show up as much. But their styles are so different. Like I really enjoy the dichotomy they have. It's just that some parts of this feel like an Arm and Hammer
Hammer album,
album
back end.
instead of
Yeah.
like Elucid.
But I think it's also fair to say that the fact that at least from my own personal opinion, the fact that I'm seeing it as it would be better if there was less Billy Woods,
Yeah.
and this was more of an Elucid album, as opposed to I wish Billy Woods was just on every track and this was
Sure.
an Arm and Hammer album, I think is probably telling for the fact that Elucid's dope on here.
Yeah.
He's
Holding it
crushing
on.
I mean,
most
Yeah.
it's like it would even without Billy all over the album, you have to compare them because they're like fucking Lennon and McCartney. You know what I mean? They're and I don't mean to say they're like the Beatles level, but they are kind of like two very
inseparable in
different
that way.
creatives who are in tandem with each other, and their music and their approach at this point has been so interconnected that it often sounds similar. Even
I agree.
you know what
There's
I mean?
some interconnectionality to it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna like if Billy wasn't on this album, we were gonna like make reference to Billy Woods
Yeah.
because they're so together.
Yes.
But I just think that having him on so many tracks, which is not
Yeah.
bad, like you said, he doesn't take away from the
He's
album.
dope on it,
But I
yeah.
just feel like it takes away from Elucid's genius, in my opinion.
If I could just go off a little bit on like some like a contrast to the styles, like I said, Billy is very kind of like, it's not straightforward because you still got to fucking figure this shit out. But with Elucid, it seems as though he incorporates so much where Billy Woods is kind of like political black science, like political black fucking Pan-Africanism science. Like Elucid leans much more away from the materialism and more into this metaphysical aspect, incorporating sacred geometry, supreme mathematics, all types of new age ideas spirituality to a shit. And I really like how spiritual his work often feels to me on tracks as compared to Billy's, which I don't get a spirituality. I get like an ancestral
A professor
type of
teaching you
but
something.
Billy does that to me too. But
Yeah.
like sometimes, man, the words that when I got to Betamax, when I got to Betamax and that whole verse where, colors a little more, and then they throw like a fucking chorus over his voice and he's got that run and it's like, I believe in black people, like all the hair on my, it was like, I had like a mammalian gland explosion, like my third eye. I was like, oh my God, this shit is just, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, but he has it like this. I don't feel like Elucid's rhyme style is pulling me to understand things. I feel like Elucid's rhyme style is more like just getting off lyrically sometimes.
Yes, it is.
And it's like, this doesn't have to be I don't have to be like, what does he mean, brother?
But there is
You know what I mean?
a certain hopefulness to this album that I don't see as much on
Oh yeah.
Elucid's other work and also Arm and Hammer, Billy Woods. Even stuff like on Impasse. I don't even know how you pronounce
Yeah.
that word. British English, American English.
Yeah. Everything I've held, I have to hold.
And then on top of even the production, like the horns on there, they start with this the little melody sequence starts like kind of like a funeral dirge. It's kind of dark, and then the chord progression starts resolving itself in like a really kind of optimistic, like hopeful way. I won't get into the music theory element because this isn't Rig Beato, but like
Thank God.
but it also leaves like a little bit of uncertainty. Like there's like an imperfect cadence at the end of each phrase, and it's like at first you're like, oh okay, and then there's a degree of like, cautious optimism, I guess I would call it, in the production.
Well, he kind of resolves like this trauma or this situation he's having by saying like, I understand that it happened. Like there would be, what does he say? He says, I think I wrote it, there'd be no blues if I was blameless. So he kind of takes that, like this idea of like, he's done wrong, but also he understands that. And this is why the art emerges the way it is. But that fucking, I can feel the certainty slip around my neck, that slow kind of crawl. It really puts you in a weird place, man. Like
There's
he's able to evoke
tension on this album. Like he has mentioned before that he was quite heavily influenced by a lot of like prog rock and I guess also like krautrock and indie rock, alternative rock. He's mentioned the Mars Volta as one of his favorite artists. And you got like Smile Lines where the beat has this very slow build of tension. It just grows more and more tense, and you're sitting there waiting for this release that doesn't come. And it feels
fuzzy guitar feedback,
that fuzzy guitar feedback, and just this kind of drum break that's happening on a loop, and it's like. It really reminds me of, a lot of indie rock and stuff where you have that kind of build up and tension. And the way he plays with that kind of tension and release across the album, same with like Ghoulie, which is very bleak and dark,
I thought it was Ghoulie.
Crazy.
It's Ghoulie?
I think it's Ghoulie. I mean, that's how I would spell ghoul, so Ghoulies,
I like, Yeah.
No, I'm glad you mentioned the prog rock aspect because there's a part of his writing on this album that seems very like, almost like it could be a sung chorus to a different genre of music. You're talking about like on Empass or Empasse, like everything I've held, I ain't have to hold. I've been a stranger to myself. I've been asking what I've owed, even when I'm old, grays in the nose. This one's to savior. How much favor can I loan? And he's like singing these things. His writing has become different than just like braggadocio rap style. He's starting to figure out how to write these different choruses, and I don't even know like if you want to liken it to like a more of a rock genre or any type of genre. But one thing is for certain is that I feel like while maintaining this gully kind of hard lyricism, he's gotten more poetic.
And that's the thing, right? With these guys, they really lean on their voice more, and the beat is kind of like not the main star. And I do lean towards beats that are like slapping, for lack of better words. But I would say if they did have like more present beats, it wouldn't be as impactful as it is now.
Absolutely.
And I respect the hell out of that. And some of the songs that really stand out to me on this was Old Magic. I love the song. It talked about the struggle beautifully, and it hit me like to my core. Also, was it Sandroxy? Sardonyx. It reminds me of Sandroxy. I was like Sandoxy. No, it reminds me of an old Goody Mob feel to the song.
Oh
like,
yeah,
like
I get
Dungeon
that.
Family.
You got the whole crew on there. You got Quelle Chris on there as well.
Bizarro, Rory,
Seafood.
and Pink Seafood. I could hear him. Thank God y'all mixed his vocals right. Thank God, because Pink Seafood got off. And Quelle Chris on there. You could have did better. I'm not gonna lie. But I expect better from you, Quelle Chris. But you did get off.
I think all of them got off pretty hard on that. Actually, I was a little disappointed with that because I kind of wanted like a harder beat. I would have liked them kind of over that Jumanji joint a little bit more than the Sardonyx beat, just because the Jumanji joint was just hard. But I mean, not as a critique of the album at all. It's just kind of like a thing. Like I always want to hear those posse cuts be fucking dope, and that was. But
the only beat on this album I didn't really like was Bunny Chow.
That's the only
I didn't
song.
like that one either.
One of the ways that I determine how much I like an album is on my second listen. I'll like the songs that I like. Every single song has the heart on it except for Bunny Chow.
I will. A possible reference on Bunny Chow. Not sure if this was by design. But the poem "Nothing's Changed" by Tatamkulu Africa, who is a poet. Egyptian/Iranian, I believe, spent a lot of time in South Africa, very closely affiliated with Nelson Mandela and the ANC, spent some time in prison with Mandela, was very closely affiliated with the military division of that. I think they're called the Spear of Africa, the MK, something like that. And that poem, Nothing's Changed, also makes references to bunny chows for the poor, and then at the end he references, standing in front of like the glass panes of like an apartheid era like store and wishing he had a stone or a bomb to throw. And in Bunny Chow, at the end of that track, Elucid also makes an allusion to having stones in his hands.
Insane, yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's
damn.
probably by design, right? That seems relatively intentional.
And also on that track, he talks about having first the rock star in his head.
Yes.
Right. So like he's got these thoughts in his head, and can he throw it? The album starts off with Joy James, right? And there's so many parts of this album that come from this tradition that I feel of independent underground rap. Even going back to, I consider Goody Mob along the same lines of these cats. There's lines that he uses a straight Ghostface refrain, since the game got revealed. Since the face got revealed, game got real. He's got the Bugs in the Beard line from Aesop Rock, from the Bazooka Tooth intro. And just so many of these things are from that tradition. And I think that I really love and appreciate Billy Woods because they fall into this category of rap. Like you said, they rely on their voice a lot, and I feel the same way about everybody in Goody Mob. They rely on their voice as instrument, and I've said before on the podcast, like a lot of these guys are the modern jazzmen. Like instead of the instrument and they get together and they create new magic, they get together and using their minds and their voice, they reflect and do different things on beats. If you go back to those Goody Mob albums or Outkast, like most of these tracks, they're flipping different rhyme schemes depending on the beat, depending on the concept, and depending they'll drop some spoken word in there and they'll drop something else in there. And there's this thing that I typed it out here. But it's by Noah 23, who is also of this tradition of rhymers, along with the bus driver. It's this underground rap tradition, and he says, to me, being an MC/rapper is not to be looked at solely as a game, career, or avenue to flex business acumen, but an ancient chain of invocation and verbal magic of the highest order by true conduits of style and supernatural alphabetic synchromysticism. And I know that sounds pretentious as fuck
I know
to
those
people,
words.
but but like when you actually, like, these guys are also working on like Afrocentrism and sacred geometry and the history of black poetry and the griots and what it stands to use your voice as, to get these thoughts out and to really uplift your community and to teach people. And spelling is not about spelling JFK or the places he lived in. He's talking about casting spells.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like Zero, Bus Driver, who use these same phrases when they're talking about rap, because I don't own a car, I own a style, and I'm trying to use this as an art form. And it like, take from it what you will, but the people who know, what does Quelle say on the last album? The person's going to get it quicker than the rapper meant to give it, or some shit, right? Like, I forget the exact bar, but some of these things just fucking, it is a spell to me. When I hear some of these lyrics, they speak to me, and I understand everybody says that about all the music they listen to, but there's just a different intention behind these guys that I feel is just reaching for something else, reaching for a greater understanding.
Deeper understanding, for sure.
I mean, like, when you, like, Kendrick's trying to do that too, but Kendrick's main core philosophical point that he used to underpin his album is Eckhart Tolle, this quasi fucking, power of now, which is great. Jordan Peterson helps people too, but he's also an idiot. But like, Joy James starts his album off, right? A historic black feminist academic who's written tens of thousands of words about the struggle to uplift people. And I feel like when you start an album with that intention and you fill it with yourself like this, it requires a deeper listen than just to cast it off as some shit that is like, yeah. I'm not saying that about anybody, but man, I get a lot from this motherfucker.
Yeah, man. Cool. I ain't gonna add nothing to that. Yeah, I'm just gonna rank it now because.
Why does he say he's spelling JFK? It's an initialism. It's just 3 letters, and it just seems like Elucid's trying to invoke this chaos dragon. That, these men, they come to me with tears in their eyes, and
your Jordan Peterson is so good.
I think I almost want Jet to stop doing that, because I feel like I dislike him more and more as he does that. Like, fuck, bro.
Jordan Peterson so
Kendrick
awesome.
Lamar comes along and says his auntie is trans.
Bro, what is can I go off of like a little bit of like
go ahead and cook, man. You cooking?
I've contributed all I can now. That's it. That's it. We're done after the
man.
Yo, that Jumanji joint is so fucking ill. That switched up with like I would love to listen to it with Spade and him explain to me what's happening there, because Spade has got a really incredible engineering ear and knows like where the drums should be placed and shit. But I just like the way that this continuous kind of like, drumming slips away into like this more harmonic fucking thing. Like, explain it to me when we get a chance. But I just really like that shit. In the Woods verse on that, he says some shit like, I believe in the survivors, but I need proof of life before I send that wire, something, long since abandoned the mammon, which is, like some dark esoteric demon shit, right? Shadows grew long while they waited for the ransom. Like, what is he going off about, bro? Like, Woods is crazy on this. So many of these verses are incredible. I'm telling you that higher up Betamax shit. This is undoubtedly my favorite song of the year. I probably played this
Song?
Yeah, Betamax.
Betamax?
Yeah, just that higher up, and when it comes in, bleeding through the edges, we don't really need no altars. No one leaves a message, nigger, bro. You know, I don't say the N-bomb like that, but he intentionally puts the hard ER on it for an emphasis. I done leveled up, puffin' flower petals. I'm the blackest metal. This a dead church. I believe in black people. I was like, it was late. I listened to this motherfucker when the shit dropped, and when I heard, I was like, oh my god. And I got through the whole album through like I was watching the movie, and I got to the climax of the movie, and then I rewatched the fight scene.
You were posting mad lyrics in all caps in the group chat too.
Bro, he's spiraling on my square, pushing air. If you know what being on your square is, and
I'm
shit,
a Mason, yes,
spiraling. But I mean, it's Masonic, but it's also God body shit, pushing air. Like he's used, man. I don't know what he's talking about. Avatar, he's talking about his voice, all this shit. Yeah, and then like the refrain at the cut refrain is like, sometimes the reason never matter. You got to fill it in the pattern. It's so choppy, and I had just watched like the DMC beat juggling competition live with my wife, and I was feeling really choppy beats that day and shit. And I was like, bro, this album is incredible. Guy R. Brewer, who I don't know, I guess is like a historical person in New York of some sort. I'm not really familiar with him, but that shit, it ends with that kind of slowed down vocal sample and the kind of like delayed kind of reverb. I don't know, it's a delayed drum, right? It's like bum bum bum. Yeah,
it's like a beat repeat.
Figure it out from Spade. Yeah, but I mean, like he's talking about choking on a churchman. Starlight. Yeah. In the circle out, like it's great. I love
crazy
this album.
imagery on this album.
I love this album, man. This album for
I
me
can
is
see it brought you joy. Like seriously, I can hear the joy in your voice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of this album. No Strand, produced by Alchemist. A very menacing beat. I don't know if I love that beat as much, but
I said it went hard.
Facts. Yeah, I mean, I like the Spade said that about an Alchemist beat, because I kind of feel like you be hard on my guy. He's one of my favorites, but you like him. You like him.
I always sound like Alchemist.
I don't want to make it seem like you don't like him, but I want Spade to hop on like the top 10 list with me with that. But it'll come. Yeah, August Fanon, I didn't mention him. He's on this. He has a great album that he did with Def C. Man, all the cats that like on this album are incredible. I've been loving. I love it. If I have to rate it, I give this like a straight solid 8.
You do have to rate it.
Greatest
Did
album
you like
ever.
it? Hate it?
Yeah, I would give this like a straight solid 8. I think this is a phenomenal album. There are things that I didn't love, like one track that I didn't love, but I really think that this is one of my favorite albums of the year. It's up there in the top 5 lists for me so far, and I would definitely recommend this to anybody that was rocking with Cannibal Ox and into this type of abstract, impressionistic, metaphysical lyricism shit. Elucid is leveled up. In my opinion, this is the most impressive work that I've heard from him. Even considering his work on the Arm & Hammer albums, I'm here for it. I love this album.
What? Yeah. Spade, you wanna?
No,
All right. Yeah. Likewise, no. This is like a strong 7, a decent 8 to me. There's maybe a couple of tracks on here that haven't sunk in yet, but I'll also like be honest with the fact that I haven't listened to it that many times, like in a room by myself. I've listened to it on the train and stuff, which is not the best time to be like breaking down an album like this, which really requires a close reading to really understand or to really love, I guess. But yeah, there's some really tight joints on here, and also just impressionistic and beautiful and hopeful, which is kind of new to this whole circle. Yeah, big fan.
I feel like he worked some shit out on this.
I will say, back to the Batman and Robin, or even more apropos is the Andre and Big Boy comparison, that you would put Elucid as the Big Boy. However, just like with Outkast, there cannot be an Andre if there wasn't a Big Boy, and there cannot be a Billy Wood if it was not an Elucid. I lean way more towards Elucid, and people will tend to say that Billy Woods is a better rapper, and that's like, all right, that's subjective. However, me personally, I think Elucid's a better rapper. He's more straightforward. I love his style. His style is really more pronounced than Billy Woods to me. I think this album was better than the last Aethiop's album. I like this one better. This one really spoke to me. It hit me hard. I like this one. Like Elucid, keep doing your thing and produce your own tracks, buddy. I think that'd be the best bet for you to do because you're a good producer too. So I would give this album a solid 8. I'm gonna drop Billy down to 7 and give this an 8 because I really like this album. Good job.
I'm gonna drop Kendrick's down from an 8 to a 7 too, just to
Makes
keep it. You know, no, I'm just saying, no, like, man, so listen to independent underground hip hop, man. Support all these artists on here. Give your money to people that deserve it. And Secret House Against the World.
Fuck the all right.
Subscribe.
Greatest album ever.
Spelling.
Why you does